Ho, 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 gentlemen. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. Now available in your country, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Stafford under pressure, and a tuck it, and he's in. Darrell Henderson, he's off and running. As Woods, touchdown. Cooper Kupp just went up and took it away.
Van Jefferson for the touchdown.
Aaron Donald smothers him. Jalen Ramsey with the pop-up. Sacked by Leonard Floyd, having a day again.
Darius Williams with a diving hit. Jordan Fuller comes up with his
Welcome back, guys, to the Downtown Rams podcast. This is episode 410. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen, and joining me this time is Blaine Grisak. He is filling in for Alexis, who is stuck. Her flight got delayed, and she is stuck in LA. I know some of you probably wouldn't view it that way, but she doesn't live there, so she is stuck there. But we are coming to you after the Rams basically clinched the Super Bowl berth for the second time in 4 years. And they took down the almighty San Francisco 49ers, AKA, well, I don't know if it's AKA anymore, Blaine, but, at one point or another, I would have called them the Kryptonite. And they took them down, and it was incredible. They probably should have won by more. You and I both agree on that end. But, a win is a win, and I'll take it however I can get it.
Yeah, I'm still just in complete disbelief. Like, I tried to go to bed Sunday night and I couldn't. Just the way that it happened, obviously, like you and I were talking before the show. We both predicted the Rams to be in the Super Bowl before the season, but you can't ever really predict how they get there. And just what they've gone through this season with all the COVID stuff, the injuries, losing Robert Woods, And then in the NFC Championship game, they beat the San Francisco 49ers, a team that they haven't beaten since the last time they were in the Super Bowl in 2018. So they finally get over that hump, and they don't just get over that hump. They come back from 17-7 down in the fourth quarter. Aaron Donald absolutely takes over in that fourth quarter and shuts out Jimmy G and that 49ers offense. And yeah, it's just I'm still just kind of on cloud nine and can't really believe it.
It's funny because, you and I are in the same boat, and you look at this team and you're like, well, this team is super, impressive. But at the same time, it's like you feel like they could be a lot better, and they leave points on the board and things like that. So just to see them come away with this win was huge, especially the way, I can tell you right now, and I know you would agree with me, since we both defended him tooth and nail every single week. Raheem Morris deserves a big ol' apology from all of the haters out there.
Yeah, definitely. His I'm not going to say Raheem Morris was perfect throughout the season, but he got a lot more criticism than what was warranted. He had this group playing very well for the majority of the season, outside of a couple lapses. Throughout this entire postseason, his game plans have been remarkable, absolutely shut down Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury in the first round. Had it not been for 4 offensive turnovers, they basically did the same exact thing to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers offense in the divisional round on the road. And then here, like you said, the offense, they missed out on so many opportunities early in this game. You had the Stafford turnover interception that got tipped in the end zone on the second drive. You had Ben Skoranek dropping a pass in the end zone that resulted in a 54-yard field goal that was missed. It just kind of felt like the Rams were coming up short on all these opportunities, and the defense kept them in it, and they stepped up big. The 49ers had 2nd and 1 from, I think, the 44-yard line there, and ended up putting Shanahan in a spot where he had to decide, does he punt? Do I punt it or do I go for it? And he opted to punt it, and that kind of put the Rams back in the game. So, Raheem Morris and the defense they've really stepped up, and they're playing championship caliber football right now.
No, I absolutely agree. And, you know, one thing that I really want to point out here, and I'm sure you already know this, but the Rams, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't have it in front of me, but I did just see that the Rams were 2-23 all time under Sean McVay when losing by 10 in the second half. And, you know, my thing here is, you look at those two wins, they both came in the NFC title game. So, you know, say what you will about Sean McVay. And I think you and I, you know, have criticized him in the past. And I think it's all been fair. I mean, we like the guy and obviously we give him his credit, but there are times where, yeah, it just seems like they could do more and they don't do it. But this game is kind of the epitome of what Sean McVay is. You know, he's still a young 36-year-old coach. He'll be the youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl if they win, passing Mike Tomlin. But the thing that I just kind of feel like falls on deaf ears here is that, you know, Sean McVay at 36 just continues to learn. And he's so far ahead of schedule. And I can't stress it enough. Bill Belichick, by this time, is 2 years away from being a head coach. Sean McVay, in the amount of time before Bill Belichick became a head coach, age 38, he's going to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. He's only coached winning teams. He's been in four playoffs out of 5 years. He has a coaching tree so big that now all of a sudden he is literally playing one of the guys in his coaching tree in the Super Bowl. It is just absolutely incredible what he's done. And I think the biggest thing is that he's shown constantly that he grows and he learns. And, you know, I think it was you that, you know, retweeted his response or you tweeted out his response, you know, saying that, you know, it's easy when, you know, you have 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl, you can, you know, overthink things. Funny enough, that was the first thing I thought of after that Super Bowl against the Patriots, that he overthought it. But, you know, I expect him to learn from that mistake and not overthink it. You know, go with the first, you know, your gut, go with your first game plan. You know, they probably had the right game plan for the Patriots and they probably mixed it up a ton to the point where it's like you had it the first time and, you know, you broke it along the way. So I don't know, Blaine, I just feel like, you know, that is just a testament that the 2-23 record is not great, but the fact that those 2 games came in the most important, you know, games that you could possibly have. I mean, it just is a testament to how hard this guy works to get, you know, everything in order and to right his wrongs. Yeah,
exactly. And it's a testament to him, like you said. You know, in the NFC to do it in the NFC Championship game is insane. And, you know, it'd be very easy for guys on the sideline to get down and be like, hey, you know, maybe this just isn't our year. You know, the bounces just aren't going our way right now. And that might happen under a bad coach. But McVay, he has these guys believing and playing until the very end. And he's getting the most out of guys that, you know, are quite honestly probably like practice squad guys or depth guys on most rosters. I mean, you have Kendall Blanton coming up huge in the NFC Championship game, making some huge catches. You know, he takes the flea flicker screen, tight end screen for, you know, 20 yards or whatever, and which was just a huge play at the time. You have, you know, he had the drop, but you have Ben Skronik blocking in there like he's Robert Woods. You know, he's opened up holes for Cam Akers. You have just all these guys that these role players that are complementing the stars out on the field, and that is a testament to McVay and his ability to get most out of guys.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, the thing that's really cool about the way this roster is compiled, I actually tweeted this out, is that 34 of these players are draft picks when you include, you know, IR practice squad and the active roster. 34 draft picks, 15 are UDFAs. So they're doing a really nice job, you know, including the 4 waiver claims, all of which are contributing. They're doing a really nice job of getting the most out of, you know, valuable guys. And to me, that's coaching. You know, when you have a guy like Kendall Blanton playing like that, you know, that's coaching. That's, you know, that's Sean McVay, that's Wes Phillips, the tight ends coach. You know, getting guys like that to perform at that level, it's incredible to have that experience. You know, I think that's a big thing there, is that, you know, they're getting this incredible experience, so important to be able to play in these games. But, you know, credit to Wes Phillips getting him ready for that moment. Credit to Sean McVay. You know,
Jake, sorry to cut you off here, but like just to like add on to that point, you know, Eric Weddle was sitting on his couch, you know, probably like watching The Office or something, and And Sean McVay is able to like say, hey, we need you. Are you willing to you haven't played in almost 2 years now, but are you willing to come out and help us on this playoff run? And Eric Weddle jumps off his couch at the opportunity. Is like, hell yeah. And then
leading tackler in that game.
Yeah, it's Eric Weddle has. I think he had the stop on 3rd and 2. So he's coming up really big in these moments, and the Rams. He's stepped up in a big way when the Rams are really thin at safety. And I mean, credit to Nick Scott as well. But for Eric Weddle to be doing what he's doing at 37 years old and kind of emptying the tank here for this run is pretty special. And that's a credit to McVay for getting Weddle in the building, because not every player would come out of retirement for just any coach.
Oh, I agree with that. And the thing that's funny, I also tweeted this about Weddle. Chargers fans have to be sick, because I know it's the Rams house, right? I mean, no one is saying that is the Chargers stadium, but the Chargers do play home games there. And Chargers fans are watching their guy that was there, 10 plus years, whatever. They're watching him, in a Rams uniform. Their cross locker room rival, whatever, on their field. And he's coming out of retirement to play for them to go to a Super Bowl. And the reason, he kind of views himself as a Ram is because, with the Chargers, I mean, the whole, Tom Telesco, Dean Spanos thing, whatever, there's so much that goes into that. But I mean, the fact that he was fined $10,000 for being on the field during halftime to support his daughter who was playing the halftime show. The fact that they forced him onto IR and then said that they didn't have enough room on the plane for him. So they didn't let him travel week 17 against the Broncos. This is back in 2015. And the fact that they said after 5 straight years of being all pro, they said that he had too much mileage on him. And it was almost like they were basically forcing him out. And so he goes to the Ravens and he continues to play his game. And, obviously, I think he really carved out a role there. And then he got an opportunity to play with, Sean McVay and, Andrew Whitworth and all of these guys. And, he just absolutely could not wait for the opportunity. And then now here he is. And, the guy that really got him into this situation, it wasn't Jalen Ramsey, who he played with, who he's wearing his number. It wasn't Aaron Donald. It wasn't even Sean McVay. You know who it actually was? It was Raheem Morris. And, we can tie this into, a little bit of what today is, because today is the Senior Bowl. This is why, things like that are so important, because Eric Weddle never really played under Raheem Morris. He just got coached by Raheem Morris at the Senior Bowl, and they kept in touch ever since. Isn't that incredible?
That is a pretty cool story. Yeah.
It goes to show you, man, networking is huge no matter what profession you do it in. But, it wasn't necessarily to be a knock on the Chargers. It's to show you that, just because a guy played for, a team for 10 plus years or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that, he owes that team, and I think with Weddle, he really feels like he's a Ram. And Blaine, I'll tell you right now, I won't be surprised if he retires. I won't be surprised if he keeps playing. But I can say right now, because the way the practice squad has been altered, revamped, you could get the same situation, and it just as well as I do. Josh McCown with the Philadelphia Eagles was a player coach. He was 40 years old on the practice squad, and he was basically a coach. And I would not be surprised. Eric Weddle, who's sitting there on the practice squad right now, I would not be surprised if he comes back on the practice squad. They're paying him more than he would just be making sitting on his couch, and he gets to coach as well, and then potentially get brought in. I would not be surprised if that was the case, because now with the new rules of the practice squad, it makes that possible. But on top of that, when you really think about it, it is not waivers. So no one could just claim Weddle. Weddle would be loyal to the Rams. So I think that's something that we could definitely see next year. I don't know if it'll happen, but it's something possible, regardless of the outcome of this Super Bowl, that we could see.
Yeah, I could see Weddle coming back as a players coach, and kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier, of just the Rams roster makeup. Coming into this year, it was all about how the Rams don't have depth and how they're going all in. They traded 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford. They traded these second-round picks for Von Miller, and but Odell Beckham has a great game against the 49ers. Like the Rams aren't in the Super Bowl without Odell Beckham. He has his biggest game as a Ram against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So thank you Cleveland for not knowing how to use Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller is just, you can talk about his pass rush, but he's been absolutely stout against the run as well. And it's just, it all complements each other. The Rams have been able to develop guys like, you have Greg Gaines, who's absolutely playing out of his freaking mind right now. He didn't have a great game, but I mean, Troy Reader's wearing the green dot on defense, and he occasionally runs into a good play every now and then. Traven Howard makes the play that ends the game. Like, it's just you have these stars, and it's all about, the Rams don't have depth. They don't have. It's all about their stars. They don't have depth behind them, but yet it's the guys behind the stars that end up, it all kind of complements each other, which is a really cool thing to see. And I'm interested to see if the way the Rams are building this team, if that kind of rubs off on other teams in the league, and we see more of this sort of all-in approach. And my theory is, if you're not going all in, like what are you doing? And the Rams haven't been afraid to go all in, and they have one more win to go, but so far it's paid off.
No, I agree with you. And, the thing that is funny is that you look at a guy like, say, Nick Scott, who was entirely drafted. Immediately, everyone assumed special teams. He didn't really play a lot of defense at Penn State. And that felt like a Bones pick at the time. Well, Bones is gone, and he has really stepped up. I think Nick Scott right now looks better than I've ever seen Jordan Fuller look. I mean, the way he's playing, he's like a lightning rod. And it's so great because I'm a big fan of redemption and, big fan of second chances. And let's be honest, Blaine, you and I I think would agree on this. Nick Scott in week 18 might have been the reason the Rams lost that game. Like, he missed so many tackles in that game. They missed 19 in total. Scott probably missed 4 or 5 of them. But instead of him sulking and beating himself up, he did what every competitor should do. And he picked himself right back up. And, the next game, Monday Night Football, in the playoffs, first ever. And they just, he was huge. He was absolutely huge. He was huge in the Tampa game. He was the last one to ever pick off Tom Brady before he retired. And then this game, with a massive hit. And, I think the thing when you have a guy like that, and we've talked about, his athleticism is off the charts. So I don't think people realize how athletic he is. So you have a guy like that is that athletic, that can be that ball hawk, that can make plays when needed, but can also lay the wood the way that was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen on Deebo Samuel.
That might have been the biggest hit that I've seen from Ram safety since Rodney McLeod laid out. Was it Emmanuel Sanders against the Broncos?
Yeah. I knew where you were going with that. Yeah, I mean, that was nuts. I mean, that was Brian Dawkins-esque. Yeah. That was Sheldon Brown-esque. Like, those two, the Eagles are like, as soon as I hear hits, I think of like them. But that was just something else. But Blaine, I was doing a little bit of research with this team, and what the Rams potentially, and we'll get more into the game, but I wanted to talk a little bit on the surface here. The Rams, with that $40 million in cap space that is going to be saved, that is not being accounted for on those cap sites, by the way. Jared Goff comes off the books. Todd Gurley comes off the books. Brandon Cooks comes off the books. And there's another one I'm probably missing. But anyway, they all come off the books, right? Michael Brockers, that was it. So you could be looking, and this is entirely a realistic thing. And I'm not saying that they can't go out and sign other guys, but and draft guys, but like, this is how I came of it. I mean, you could be looking at quarterback, everybody comes back, Stafford, Wolford, Perkins, running back, Akers, Henderson, Funk, potentially. And here's the thing. I think Michelle has been valuable, but I could definitely see another team snagging Michelle. So we'll see if he comes back. And I think it's possible, but there's a chance he's gone. But then receiver, they don't need to get rid of anybody at receiver like some people think they do. And I'll be honest with you, they're not getting rid of Robert Woods. They're not doing it. There's no way. So, Cooper Kupp, you have Skoranek, you have Atwell, you have Beckham. I think Beckham comes back. I mean, it really sounds good. Like, he wants to stay. He wants to be a Ram for probably the rest of his career. He loves LA. Harris is going to come back next year. Woods, Jefferson. Then at tight end, you have Higbee, Blanton, and Hopkins. Maybe you bring back Johnny Munt. I just don't know, he should be affordable, but I just don't know if they will. Like, I think Blanton kind of earned his stripes in that game to be the backup, but we'll see. Left tackle, I expect Andrew Whitworth to retire if the Rams win the Super Bowl. So you could be looking at Nopum, Edwards, Allen, Corbett, and Havenstein, to start. And then the back end, you have Alaric Jackson, you have Tremaine Ankrum, Coleman Shelton, Jamil Demby, and Bobby Evans all come back with the potential of others, via draft picks and, practice squad and all of that. Then the defensive line, A'Shawn Robinson, Greg Gaines, Aaron Donald. Behind them, Michael Hoyt, Bobby Brown, Marquise Copeland, Ernest Brown. Then outside linebacker, Von Miller is it's a very potential that Von Miller does come back. And Ian Rappaport did throw that out there. Justin Hollins, Ernest Jones, Traven Howard, Troy Reeder, Christian Roseboom, Leonard Floyd, Chris Garrett. Then you look at corner. I don't think Darius Williams is coming back. So it would be, Jalen Ramsey, David Long, Robert Rochelle, Kareem Orr, Dante Dion. The safety, Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, Terrell Burgess, potentially Eric Weddle, and then Matt Gay, Johnny Hecker, and Matt Orzek. You realize, regardless of this outcome, people acting like this is do or die, windows closing, this is the year, like this is it. Like, there's a chance the Rams can start to put together a little bit of a dynasty here if they win this Super Bowl. And this is what I've been trying to say. And I mean, the Rams don't just sell out, the way, like, they would never be 115 million over the cap like the Saints were last year. That would never happen. They have really set themselves up to potentially run it back with the same squad, if not, close to identical squad as this year.
Yeah, and I brought up last week. I mean, Tom Brady just retired, so you can take the Bucs pretty much out of the equation for next year. Who knows what Aaron Rodgers' future is like in Green Bay? Does he retire? Does he get traded somewhere? What does that look like? Does Russell Wilson get traded from Seattle? His future is certainly up in the air. So, I mean, I think you're looking at a roster with a quarterback that is arguably going to be the best quarterback in the NFC next year, and when you have that, you have a shot every single year. And when people look at this all-in approach from the Rams, like you said, they've thought about it as being this do or die scenario where, if the Rams don't win this year, then everything that they did this year was a failure and they'll never make it back again and everything. And that's just not the case. I mean, the Rams, I think maybe are looking at things in a shorter term than some teams. Like, I think that they're looking at things within like every 3 years, but the Rams have set up themselves for a really good next 2 or 3 years with this roster and the way they have the cap set up.
No, I agree. And keep in mind, when I said the 40 million, that wasn't including Matthew Stafford's, potential contract extension, which, I mean, I would assume would come after the Super Bowl, And I mean, that's probably going to be, because the thing is, and this, but like with the Lions, it's like they don't structure contracts the way the Rams do. The Rams have a way of doing their work, and so I think that they'll structure Stafford's contract in a way that will free up some cap space. Then you have Whitworth's retirement, which would be 13 million if he retires. And if he doesn't, you have a really good left tackle, and then, there's the potential of, we're not even talking about restructures, which at that point, if you restructure everybody, you'd have close to 70 to 80 million. And then all of a sudden they could go out and they could be like, hey, we want a corner. Let's go out and get JC Jackson. I mean, that's the thing is, I think that's the one thing that they're truly missing. If you could make any argument, the linebackers, and we've talked about this, the linebackers, obviously, you have Micah Parsons on Twitter saying, wow, the Rams need linebackers. Personally, I think Ernest Jones is going to be fine long term. Then I think, Traven Howard needs to play more, right? Troy Reeder is a very good third linebacker. He's a really good backup. So your linebackers aren't like the sexiest, but they're fine. Corner is a legit thing where if you let Darius Williams walk and you put that money at, say, JC Jackson, I mean, JC Jackson, Jalen Ramsey, David Long, Robert Rochelle, Orr, and Dion, that would be something. And so then, you're also talking about the fact, not next year, but maybe the year after, or maybe next year, Jalen Ramsey really wants he's serious about this. He, obviously slowed down a little bit because he didn't want to get fined for tampering. But he really wants Derwin James there. They're best friends. He went to Florida State. And, when you're looking at a guy that can emulate Jalen Ramsey, he's the only one that comes even close because he plays the star role for Brandon Staley with the Chargers. So he'd still stay in LA. I would not rule out another big move, and they could still do it while keeping these guys. The Rams are really set up to do some damage. And when Stafford mentioned playing, and I don't know how realistic it is to be honest with you, but when he mentioned in the offseason playing 10 years, the Rams, as long as McVay doesn't retire, because I'm actually, worried about him getting burnt out. I don't think he's retiring after this year, but I'm worried about him getting burnt out to the point where 5 years from now, he goes into broadcasting or whatever. To me, if he doesn't get burnt out and Stafford plays until say Rodgers 38, 39 years old, the Rams are going to be unstoppable. The way that they're really building out this roster.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess one thing that I want to bring up before we kind of move into the game here is that I was reading, I think today and yesterday's Kevin O'Connell and Raheem Morris, I believe, are finalists for the Minnesota job. If one of them gets it, what are you looking at there, and how good of odds do you think they have at getting that job? And McVay's done a very good job at replacing his staff. And if O'Connell goes to Minnesota, I'd assume Thomas Brown gets the promotion to offensive coordinator. But what are your thoughts there? Considering I think both of them are finalists for that Minnesota job, along with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, it's weird, right? We're talking about Jim Harbaugh again in the NFL, and that sounds real. I have a weird feeling Raheem Morris deserves it, but I don't feel like Raheem Morris is going to be a head coach. I have a really weird feeling that he's not going to get a chance to be a head coach this year. I don't know why. I don't even know if Kevin O'Connell will, but I really don't. I'm not getting the feeling, when you get a feeling I knew Brandon Staley was gone. You knew Brandon Staley was gone. He wasn't coming back. But Raheem Morris is not that he would turn down the job. I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity. I don't know why. I think he's got a good resume. He's the only coach to win, 10 games or have a winning record with a completely new 22, all new starters. Going back to 1970. When he was with Tampa, I don't know. I feel like I could see Raheem. I'm almost interested to see if he would go back to Tampa if Bruce Arians hung it up. That would be interesting. And I almost feel like it's hard to know, Blaine, because, at this moment, we don't know we don't know if Pete Carroll's going to retire. We don't know if Arians is going to retire. Peyton retired, but the season's still going. The Super Bowl hasn't finished yet. So I feel like there's more stuff to be kind of, things have to unfold, but for whatever reason, I'm not getting the vibe that he's going to get it. I hope he does. Honestly, I feel like he's deserving. I want him back, but I feel like he's so deserving. He deserves it. But, if he doesn't, then the NFL is going to be in trouble, because if he gets a second year to work with this defense, then he could start adding even more wrinkles into this defense. And I think, it was kind of a trial and error, almost, trial by fire, if you will, or baptism by fire, to start the season. But he really tightened that thing up down the stretch, and I think he's really found the right rhythm and the right recipe, and to the point where I think they'd be back with Brandon Staley territory, where they'd be the number one defense again. So yeah, we'll see, Blaine. I don't know. I think if he leaves, then I think Ejiro Evero is probably the head. He's the favorite if they go in-house. They could look to bring Aubrey Pleasant back. I've heard that. I've heard Eric Henderson. And I've heard Chris Shula, and I've also heard, and this stems back to a couple years ago when Sean McVay interviewed him. But Jim Leonard with Wisconsin defensive coordinator, no one thinks he's going to leave there, but if he were to leave, it would be definitely to coach guys like, Von Miller, Donald, Ramsey. Who would turn that down?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I want Raheem to get hired, and not because I want him off the Rams. I think I've been one of Raheem Morris's biggest supporters this year by far. I think a lot of heat on Twitter for it, but yet I've stuck by his side all season, and it's looking like that's that decision has paid off for me. I guess it's he's coaching really well, and you can tell. Jalen Ramsey is saying stuff like Raheem Morris is the best defensive coach I've ever played for, and he's such a really great leader of men that I would hate to see him leave. But I really hope that he does get a head coaching job, because I think he does deserve it. I think, like Josh McDaniels in Denver, I think he was just really young at the time when he took Tampa Bay for the first time, and I think with another opportunity, he could be a really, really good head coach with that chance. And but like you said, the season's not over yet. We'll hopefully hear about these hires within the next week or two, and coaches will get going. But yeah, let's get into this game, Jake. What were your initial thoughts? Kind of at the beginning of the game, where Rams are missing out on all those opportunities. They're down at the half 10-7 after they should have been up 17-7. Really, they were completely dominating. What were your thoughts on the beginning of the game and kind of the adjustments that McVay made?
I was so impressed with, basically they come out and they get the touchdown. And let's just talk about that play a little bit. That touchdown, they're in quarters coverage. That is not an easy throw to make. And your margin for error is very, very small. And they just do just enough to get by. I believe it was Jaquiski Tart. Just an amazing throw to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp gets some great depth on his route, where he gets vertical enough to the point where, obviously I think Jaquiski Tart did a nice job of undercutting the route, but he got so much depth on that route that it did not matter. And that Stafford put it perfectly right past, because Tart had his hand up. He just put it over his hand. It was only where the receiver could get it. And Stafford, big playoff moment to start the game, to have that 7-0 lead. That was just huge.
Prize Picks is the best app you've never heard of. You can choose between stars from all sports, 2, 3, 4, even 5 players to increase how much money you win. Join Prize Picks today by using our promo code DTRAMS and get a double deposit on your first deposit when signing up with Prize Picks.
Girls, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of finding a bush when I go down on my man's chimney. Dear Santa, all I want this holiday season is for my man to have smooth jingle balls. Thankfully, Manscaped answered with the Performance Package 4.0, so I don't have to find Santa's beard in my man's pants again. Ladies, this holiday season, get your man products that will leave him smelling fresh with their all-new ultra-premium body wash and a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It's time to give the man in your life the gift of beautiful skin, hair, and balls this holiday season. Go to manscaped.com and use code DTR for 20% off plus free shipping.
Yeah, and that throw, just
crazy,
unbelievable. That window that he threw it in, it was an absolutely perfect thrown ball. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp have been, their connection has been just on another level this year. It's like they have twin telepathy going on the football field. It's unbelievable. But like you said, to get that touchdown, take the 7-0 lead. I know they went down 10-7 at the half, but to get that lead and kind of, after that second drive where they came up with no points in the red zone because of the pass, probably 99 times out of 100 that's an incomplete pass, and the ball is getting tipped up in the air, and the Niners come up with it. To bounce back from that was really important, and it kind of set things up for the rest of the game.
No, I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's easy to somewhat forget about it, at that point. But look, the Rams, they battled back. This defense, they played well. They only gave up 17, and to be honest with you, this game should not have been as close as it was. But either way, Debo has the really impressive 44-yard touchdown, from Garoppolo. Stretching out to hit the pylon, go up, to tie at 7-7. They get in a field goal range, get a 38-yarder out of Robbie Gould right before the half. And then, you look at the third quarter, that was brutal. The touchdown they gave up to Kittle. You really felt like they were going to stop them. You felt like you were going to hold them to a field goal, and to get that touchdown, that felt damaging, late in the third.
Yeah, it did. That was I kind of I don't want to say I ever didn't think they were going to come back, but I was starting to get doubt was starting to creep in at that point. It's late in the third quarter, things just like I said, the Rams just were kind of getting unlucky, you know, that they had the tip ball on the second drive. Matthew Stafford hits Ben Skowronek right in the hands. Like, I don't know how he didn't catch that. And then they end up missing the field goal. And it just kind of seemed like everything wasn't going the Rams' way. And down 17-7 at that point, it's like, this is a team they've lost 6 straight times. Like, you don't really see after losing to a team 6 straight times, there doesn't really seem to be a path to come back from a 10-point deficit. And yet they did. And where do you think the turning point was? Because, I mean, of course, you know, you look at the AFC Championship game where, you know, the Chiefs are leading 21-3, and the turning point of that game is probably at the end of the first half, where the Chiefs kind of come up empty in that red zone drive at the end there and come up with no points instead of just taking the field goal 5 seconds left. Where do you think the turning point was for the Rams in this one to come back from 10 points against a team, like I said, they hadn't beaten in 6 straight times?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, I think really what it was is that, you know, this defense was able to pretty much stifle, you know, that running game, and it made the 49ers one-dimensional, you know, and I think they just really had a good game plan coming out. I think when, you know, they go down 17-7, like, I get it, you know, that's obviously not fun, but you know, they came out and they fired right back at them, you know, and I think that was the thing, to be able to respond the way they did, you know, because, you know, they go down 17-7 and then you're talking, you know, not long after that, you know, they kick it away. Stafford has, you know, a pass to Kupp. They get the taunting penalty from Alshire. Then you have, you know, Sony Michel runs it. They're trying to still, you know, show them, hey, we're still going to run the ball. We're still going to play. We're not worried about the time and everything. Then you get that pass to Cooper Kupp that gets him about the, you know, 50-yard line. Then you had, you know, the Blanton pass for 20 yards, you know, and then after that, you know, Blanton again for 9. You know, you run it with Michelle again to kind of keep them honest. And then on 3rd and 1, and the Rams, both of their touchdowns came on 3rd down. You know, they throw a 11-yard pass to Cooper Kupp, which was just a rocket from Stafford.
Yeah, I agree. You know, they go down 17-7, and I think it was crucial for them to come back and respond there. I mean, if you end up punting there, I think the game's probably over. And then I think, like you said, I think the turning point was, you know, the 49ers had a chance to put this game away. I think I saw the stat somewhere, but I think it was from Dan Orlovsky. I think in the 49ers 3 playoff losses, I believe Kyle Shanahan has been outscored, I think 56-0. Going back, I think to the Atlanta game against the Patriots in the Super Bowl there. So I mean, the 49ers had a chance to put this out there. You know, they have 2nd and 1. Defense comes up with 2 really good stops instead of 4th and 2, and for the 49ers not to go for it there, I think it was a little inexcusable from Shanahan's part, because I think Shanahan not going for it on that 4th and 2 is just as bad as McVay not going for the win in Week 18. Because you have a chance to put the game away right there, and the Rams get the ball back, and you know, Stafford almost has the interception there, but comes back and they hit OBJ for 29 yards. They get the penalty, get into field goal range, and tie it up. And just like that, a 17-7 deficit it's a tie ball game. And with the way the defense was playing, it was anybody's game at that point.
Yeah, and on that drive, to point it out, Blaine, the key on that drive was the 29-yard pass to the left sideline to Odell Beckham Jr. You know, he got hit with a unnecessary roughness call, Jimmy Ward. That was massive. You know, to make that catch on 2nd and 10, you know, to set up, you know, the Rams now across the field, because now they get the 29-yard gain, so at the LA 44. And then they get the 15 yards tacked on. So they start off at the San Francisco 41. That really helped the drive, because you had a no gain run from Cam Akers. You had an incomplete pass to Van Jefferson. You had a pass, you know, that obviously went to Cooper Kupp for the 1st down. That was huge. And then it sets up at the San Francisco 25. And it's, you know, incomplete pass to Van. short, to OBJ. And then you have honestly, that one call on 3rd and 3 still kind of bothers me. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? The one that Michelle.
Yeah.
The negative 4-yard. I don't understand what they were doing there, but we didn't talk about the Skoranek drop, though, because I do want to point out that, Stafford threw as perfect of a pass as you're going to throw. And, at that point, when he drops that pass, I felt like there was a momentum shift on that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the Rams scored there, and what was the score at that point? The score at that point, it's 7-7, and I mean, you score there, and it's a 14-7 game, and you're in control, and San Francisco really has to push to go down the field and get points before the half. Like,
they missed the field goal too, so they got nothing out of that.
Yeah, so I mean, you're really putting pressure on San Francisco at that point. Instead, San Francisco got, I think, 1:40 to go down the field, and they end up getting the field goal to go up at the half. So, that drop was huge. I think I like, as much as we are praising McVay, I think he definitely wasn't perfect in this one. The two challenges, like, whoever is giving him advice to challenge stuff, like, needs to be fired, because those weren't close. And then I think the call to go for it, I think it was the right call to go for it, but I'm not sure quarterback sneak was the right call. I mean, I think it's worth noting that Stafford was pulled down by his face mask on that play, and it wasn't called. But I also think that Sony Michel had been so good in those short yardage situations during the game that I think something to him makes a little more sense, or go play action and try to get something. The Rams are really lucky that call didn't end the game right there.
No, you're right. Now they get that field goal to tie it up after forcing the Niners to punt. And, I feel like after the field goal, this is when they start to really take over, because, they have the kickoff, and the Niners get -5 yards on 3 plays and only take 23 seconds off the clock. And to me at this point, the fans are getting loud. You have the delay of game penalty. This is where I don't think the Rams necessarily took over. Like, the Rams, I think the fans took over SoFi. Like, the Rams fans took over SoFi on this drive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a weird atmosphere. Like, it felt like, as a Chelsea soccer fan, like, it felt like I was watching the Champions League final, where, like, it's half Rams fans, half 49ers fans, and depending on how the momentum's going, that team's fans are louder and everything, and that's kind of how it felt. At this moment, the Rams are starting to take over, and you could really hear those Rams fans really starting to make an impact. And in the fourth quarter, deep in, I think Debo only took that kickoff back to. I guess it was a touchback, wasn't it?
It was a touchback, but I know what you're talking about. Debo took it out, and he got walloped.
Yeah. So I mean, you're deep in their own your own territory, and that's where the noise really makes an impact. And like you said, I think in the fourth quarter there, the fans really started to show out.
And when, you and I are texting during this game, and I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to throw a pick soon. Like, you know what's happening. Like, he's due. And then all of a sudden on 2nd and 15 at the San Francisco 20 with 6:45 to go, it's 17-17. And again, you're at the 20, so if the Rams were to pick you off, they're right in position to score. And he throws right into Jalen Ramsey's arms, and Jalen catches that 9 times out of 10. This was the one time he didn't catch it.
Yeah, I mean, you expect Jalen Ramsey to make that play 9 times out of 10. He's been kind of uncharacteristic the last couple of weeks. Last week, he gets beat by Mike Evans. This week, I mean, he overall played well, but he drops the interception, and I'd assume he'll be getting that back in the Super Bowl for sure. But yeah, I mean, right before this drive, I think, or maybe it was before the second one, I do want to point out to Aaron Donald's leadership, because it was kind of talked about all week that he became more of this vocal leader, and you go, and then Fox turns to Donald, gathering the entire starting defense on the sideline, huddling up, and he's giving them this motivational pep talk, like, this is our time, let's go get it, let's end this thing, let's step up. And It clearly had an effect because Rams shut out San Francisco there in the fourth quarter. But I think that was just a really cool moment. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, I don't want to compare Aaron Donald with Jeff Fisher, but it reminded me of like Jeff Fisher's like halftime talk to the Titans in the Super Bowl, and they're down 16 to whatever it was, 16-3 or 16-0, whatever it was there at halftime in the Super Bowl. But it just kind of reminded me of that. And I mean, Donald knows how much he needs a Super Bowl to be talked with Lawrence Taylor's, Reggie White's, and the greatest defensive players in this league. And you could tell how much he wanted this because he just totally changed his leadership style. And I think that's really important. And I don't think that can be understated because he got that defense playing on another level there in the fourth quarter.
Well, and this also, I think this stems from, as well, Sean McVay and Raheem Morris learning their lesson from Week 18. They could have played that soft shell and they decided not to. They really went after him. And, we saw that on the next play, 3rd and 15 with 6:37 to go. Garoppolo's going to go short left to Travis Benjamin. And I wasn't sure why they called this play, to be honest with you, but they were there and Benjamin drops it. And it wouldn't have mattered if he caught it or not because they were going to punt. It's 17-17. And at this point you're thinking the Rams got him right where they want him. And then, obviously I wanted Powell to return a punt, but I could not get Hakeem drop the ball out of my head. I couldn't get, Pharaoh Cooper with 2 fumbles against the Falcons out of my head. I mean, I couldn't get Natson fumbling out of my head. I mean, I was like, I feel like if Brandon Powell had enough space, he had a chance to absolutely break the game open with a huge return. But I was also worried that like it could just, all it takes is that one moment where he doesn't read it well and he fumbles. And then the Niners, and I've seen the Niners win that way. Like we saw them win against the Packers on a blocked punt. I mean, special teams miscues, helped them. So I was worried about that, but just to see the Rams come back and, the play to Blanton, I believe it was on this drive. Maybe it wasn't, but I thought it was the you know what I'm going to say, the flea flicker screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on this drive, but it was the 25 yarder to Kupp was huge. That brought him. That was huge because when he caught that, that was very similar to the Buccaneers game in a sense that set up the go ahead field goal. And obviously it didn't win the game right then and there, but that was really when that happened and Kupp got up and, Kupp's reserved, Kupp doesn't make a lot of, big, flashy moments, right? He doesn't scream or anything. He got up and he freaking went berserk. And that told me that this was different, Yeah.
And Jake, that play came on 3rd down. I just want to point this out. Stafford's stats on 3rd down in the fourth quarter, 6 for 6 for 72 yards and a touchdown. He finished the fourth quarter 11 for 14 with 129 yards and a touchdown. And his fourth quarter EPA was 0.478 per play, which led all conference championship quarterbacks. He was the only conference quarterback in the conference championship games this weekend that had a positive EPA per play in the fourth quarter.
That is crazy. And I actually just got this this tweet just showed up on our Discord. This is really cool. Ready for this?
Yeah.
So the Rams, the defense broke their tendency in the NFC Championship game, which I'm sure you and I both noticed, but it's cool to see the stats. Against the Niners, they showed more single high safety looks and loaded the box to stop the run. They had 63% single high, which was a season high, and 49% loaded box, which was a season high.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and it directly reflects exactly what we saw. I think you saw Raheem Morris make an adjustment, which if you would have listened to anybody on Twitter in week 8 or 9, you would have thought that Raheem Morris was incapable of making adjustments. But he makes this adjustment. I mean, there were times where the Rams were daring Jimmy Garoppolo to beat them, daring him. I mean, there were times where there were 8-9 guys in the box, which was that's insane to do in today's NFL, and it was just a testament to.
They did not respect him.
No, not at all. And we're going to make Jimmy G beat him, and he couldn't. I mean, when Jimmy G had to beat them, you have Aaron Donald on 3rd and 13, busting through the line and putting pressure on him, and he makes like that. Is kind of similar to Kyler Murray's interception in the wild card round, where he just kind of chucks it to the nearest guy that he sees while he's going down, and there's a Rams defender right there to to intercept it, and that essentially that does end the game. So yeah, just a testament to Raheem Morris and making those adjustments. And one more thing that I do want to point out before we do end up before we do wrap up is the adjustments the Rams made on offense too in the run game. You saw against Tampa Bay in Week 18 where there are times where they are just basically running into a brick wall and seem to be okay with that. And in this game, you saw a lot more of these outside runs, a lot more quick passes. And in the first half, Cam Akers had a really rough game against Tampa Bay. But I kind of felt that like he was going to bounce back, and he didn't. And in the first half against Tampa Bay, or in the first half on Sunday, Akers had 10 carries for 45 yards for 4.5 yards per carry, and Akers is 48. I think he finished with 48 or so yards. But whatever he finished with was the most the 49ers has given up to a running back during this postseason. So for him to bounce back like that, just a testament to him as well. And for McVay to kind of mix things up in the run game, getting more outside, getting more creative, just really big, because the Rams needed, as much as this game was on Matthew Stafford, they also needed to be able to run the ball and keep San Francisco off balance. And I think they did a great job of that.
No, I agree with you. I think this was a total team win. This was all three phases. Johnny Hecker, I thought, he played well. You got to give him his props. I think he's really stepped up down the stretch. Matthew Stafford, by the way, leads all quarterbacks now in adjusted EPA per play. So now that the whole season has played out up until the Super Bowl, he surpassed Patrick Mahomes on the last day. I think that shows you. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think Matthew Stafford, if you were to put the whole season and wrap it up into a bow, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp might be, I think Cooper Kupp is the MVP of the season, but I think Matthew Stafford is in the top three. And there's a reason, Blaine, why this team made the Super Bowl and not the Chiefs. By the way, those are the only two teams that have made the Super Bowl 2 of the last 4 years. The Niners made it once. The Bucs made it once. The Patriots made it. But, I think the big thing here is that, just to, remind people, is that the reason the Chiefs are not in this game is because they can't play the way the Rams do. They can't make the adjustments the Rams make, and they're too flashy. I mean, let's call it like it is. They had an overtime possession there at the end, and we already saw them go down the field and beat Buffalo because they couldn't stop them. I mean, throwing double coverage to Tyreek Hill, 5'9", just throwing it up to him, I just felt like it was so careless. It was really careless. And it honestly, I don't know if it was cocky or what, but I'm glad that the Rams in this game, they weren't about the giant play. It seemed like they're always looking for the flashy play. And I feel like this Rams offense, they may not average as many points as the Chiefs per game, but I feel like they're the better offense. And I think, they're a team that they still have not figured it out. They're still not as dominant. But when push comes to shove, that they can change their game. Stafford can make the throws, and he made more throws than Mahomes made. And that's why he's playing in, Super Bowl 56 and Mahomes is not.
Yeah, I mean, and you just look at some of the difficulty of the level of throws that Stafford is making. He's changing his arm angle. The flea flicker tight end screen that we've been talking about. That was a no look pass. God,
so crazy.
And you can see Bosa fall for it too. On the all 22, Bosa puts his arm up in the opposite direction, and Stafford throws it the other way. So it's just. What Stafford's able to bring to the quarterback position in terms of changing up his arm angles and making those no look throws, and his ceiling is just so high. And his postseason run. I mean, he has one interception, and it was a tip pass in the end zone. So he's been on another level, and if he continues to play like he does, I don't have a doubt that I don't have a doubt that the Rams will be hoisting the Lombardi in a couple of weeks, which will be an interesting matchup there against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, Blaine, I know we don't have Robert Woods this time around, but we do have Kupp, finally in the Super Bowl. So, I'm very curious to see this game. Obviously the last time Cooper Kupp played the Bengals, they were a lot worse, a lot worse. They gave up over 200 yards in the first half to Cooper Kupp. That was in London. And I just think it's very, It's very interesting, this matchup that we got. Zach Taylor was the favorite to be fired, betting odds favorite to be fired before the season started. And now look at him. Joe Burrow, torn ACL. Remember what they were saying in the offseason? Everyone's so quick to stop talking about it, but I remember it, and I'm sure you remember it. Oh, Joe Burrow, he's got those happy feet. He's it's all mental. He's not going to be able to come back from this ACL as easy as people think. And then you had Jamar Chase. Oh, Jamar Chase in the preseason. What about the drops? Oh, he's dropping everything. Look at the way this team has come back. Trey Hendrickson being called, one of the most overpaid players this year in free agency. He has been huge for them. It's the same thing over with the Rams. Oh, Matthew Stafford 0-3 in the postseason. He's 3-3 now. Has a chance to be 4-3 if he wins the Super Bowl. Then you have OBJ, the cancer that apparently is the reason the Browns didn't make the playoffs this year. That was fun. And then you have Von Miller. Von Miller, he's over the hill. I kept seeing that. How is Von Miller over the hill? And then it just kept going on and on and on. Different guys. Oh, Eric Weddle, he's just signing on. He's a ring chaser. You're not a ring chaser when you're leading the team in tackles after coming, back from 2 years of, retirement. I mean, don't give me that. And then, Cam Akers, everyone doubted him. There were people saying that he may never play again with the Achilles tear. And now here he's back, 6 months later. This is just this is a Super Bowl that is the anti-narrative that is essentially what we all wanted and didn't realize that we wanted, because there's so many great storylines. There's storylines like Andrew Whitworth playing against his former team, potentially his last game of his career. There's just so many incredible narratives, and I just love it because, this is probably for the first time, and I can admit this is the first time in a long time, Blaine, where I don't have a dislike for a team in the Super Bowl. For me, I didn't really like the Bucs. I didn't really like, the Patriots. Obviously, I didn't like, the Chiefs honestly started to annoy me a little bit, but there's always been a little bit like Seattle or San Francisco. Like there's always been a reason for me to root against a team. The only reason I'm rooting against the Bengals is because, we're in it. That's the only reason, because the Bengals would be a team that I would love to be rooting for, in the Super Bowl. So, big shout out to them. They are way ahead of schedule. We'll see what happens in the game. And, anyone can win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Rams on paper, they're 10-point favorites in my mind, on paper. They match up extremely well. But you just can't count out this Bengals team, because no matter what happens, they continue to win. It's just like the Rams. You can't count them out because they blew out the Cardinals, but then they dominated Tampa. They let Tampa in it, and they still won. And then, they dominate the 49ers. They outplay them. They should have won, 30-17, and, they end up barely winning that game. So, it's all about surviving and advancing. The excess points that you had, the game before, they don't carry over. So this is going to be a hell of a Super Bowl, man. It's the lowest seeded Super Bowl of all time, which you could say in a casual way, it's the worst Super Bowl of all time. But in reality, you'd be wrong, because I think this is exactly what the NFL needs. They need, Matthew Stafford has a chance to kind of cement his legacy. But on top of it, now that Brady's out, now that Rodgers is going over to the AFC in all likelihood, because I do think he's going to end up with the Broncos. And now, you're looking at the best quarterbacks being Stafford and Prescott, whereas Stafford, if he wins the Super Bowl, really, I mean, he breaks that argument. Blaine, Stafford could all of a sudden become the face of the NFC. And then on the AFC side, we're all talking about Justin Herbert. We're all talking about Patrick Mahomes. Well, how about this? This is what's not talked about. Patrick Mahomes was at a $7 million cap hit this year. And now all of a sudden, the Chiefs having to deal with what they were doing with Patrick Mahomes, the same way the Rams were doing with Jared Goff, they're having to deal with that huge cap hit of $35 million next year. And we're going to see the Bengals with a rookie Joe Burrow contract. We're going to see them. They're ahead of schedule. And if they can if they can even compete in this game and they can come back next year, these teams are scary as can be, because the Bengals know what's wrong with them. They have to fix that offensive line, and they still could win a Super Bowl with how bad that offensive line is.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's so much to talk about with the Super Bowl. Joe Burrows, they call him Joe Burr because he has ice running through his veins. There's going to be a lot to talk about here over the next couple of weeks. Jamar Chase versus Jalen Rams, going to be a great matchup. Tennessee sacked Burrow 9 times in the wild card round. Would not surprise me if the Rams get close to that or beat it with Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Leonard Floyd going up against a bunch of turnstiles. It's just like you said. I mean, Whitworth going up against his old team and what is potentially his last game. Yeah, I think if you would have asked most people before championship weekend, I think I think a lot of people would have said that the Rams versus Bengals was the matchup they were least intrigued by or least wanted. But I think once we get into this game, once we start talking about it more and get into all the storylines a bazillion times, I think this has potential to be a really good game because that Bengals offense is a lot of fun to watch. That defense, they maybe don't have a star player in that group. I mean, Jesse Bates is playing very well, but they don't necessarily have that Aaron Donald caliber player, star level player on that defense, and they've been playing really well as of late. Like you said, they're maybe a year or two ahead of schedule, but here they are in the Super Bowl, and it should be a fun game.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I can't say I know any former Rams on the Cardinals, but the Rams did have to beat former Ram and Ndamukong Suh on Tampa. They had to beat Samson Ebukam on the 49ers. And now they'll have to beat Mike Thomas.
Oh, no, not Mike Thomas.
Yeah. So Mike Thomas and Zach Taylor. But I'm pretty sure there's somebody else from the Rams, I'm sure. But no, it should be a great Super Bowl. And I just love that it's not it is funny. And before we go, because we'll wrap this thing up, but it is funny, Blaine, how the narrative of the Chiefs, no one talks about no one gets talked about more than Kansas City right now. Like, I just noticed that. Like, people are talking more about Kansas City losing than the Rams and Bengals being in the Super Bowl. And, to me, I find it interesting because I love Patrick Mahomes. That was my number one quarterback when he came out. But Kansas City just lost their opportunity to go to the Super Bowl for the 3rd time in 4 years. Had they done that, that would have been something no one's done, in this, league as of right now in that 4-year span. They're the same with the Rams right now, 2 of the last 4 years. And if the Rams win, guess what? They're tied for the same amount of Super Bowls in those 2 Super Bowl out of 4 years, the same amount of Super Bowls. And they do not get talked about like they're a top dog. They've gotten some press, don't get me wrong, but it never seems to be, they don't get the benefit of the doubt the way Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs do. And I will say, people were not super comfortable with the Rams beating Tampa or, San Francisco or even Arizona for that matter. But I think it's time to put some respect on them. And I definitely think it's time to put some respect on the Bengals because, there were people that didn't think that they would make it. You and I saw that Packers game, and I don't think we thought Super Bowl, but we're like, okay, this team's for real. And, they beat the Chiefs week 17. So I don't know why, people acted like that couldn't ever happen without at least pointing that out.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Bengals have been this team that everybody's counting out all year. I certainly didn't have them in the playoffs, and even after the Packers game, I certainly didn't have them in the Super Bowl. But they've been a team that everybody's counted out all year, and I think Joe Burrow has a chance to be the first quarterback or first player in NFL history to win the Heisman, Rookie of the Year, and a Super Bowl in their career, and he has a chance to do it. I think within 3 years, which is insane. His rise. Like you said, the media all talks about Patrick Mahomes and stuff, but there's a potential star here in Joe Burrow, and with the contracts up in KC, the Bengals have a chance to really be competitive over the next 5-10 years with this rookie contract window with Joe Burrow. So it's going to be a fun game. Hopefully high scoring. Hopefully a lot of fun. McVay versus Zach Taylor will be great. It's crazy that Taylor coached under McVay, and yet he's still 2 years older than McVay. Andrew Whitworth is older than both of them.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, it should be a fun game though.
There's a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, Whitworth, when he left the Bengals, it was assumed, like, a lot of Bengals fans were rooting for him to win a Super Bowl with the Rams. It was assumed, like, okay, like, he'll win a Super Bowl, we'll be bad. And now they're playing the Super Bowl. It's really funny. And then on top of it, people were arguing that Joe Burrow, was the comeback player of the year or not. And I've been saying it since day one. He was. And, here he is. I mean, he's been one of the best quarterbacks down the stretch that you could have asked for. So going to be a great game. We'll get more into it on this podcast and, future shows. I'll probably have you on JE Live and we'll talk about that. But, this is going to do it for us. It's been a great episode 410. Appreciate Blaine for filling in for Alexis while she's having all sorts of playing issues. Hopefully playing issues as in like nothing, worrisome, but, we'll be back. We're going to be covering the game, and don't worry, we'll have plenty of content. But once again, thank you, Blaine. You can go follow Blaine at B Grisak DTR on Twitter. You can follow me at JK Bogan, and you can follow Alexis Craft at the Alexis Craft. You can also follow Downtown Rams at Downtown Rams, and you can go to our website. We are now covering the Senior Bowl. We have people over in Mobile covering it. We have, obviously we'll have Super Bowl coverage because we are, covering the Rams. So look out for that on downtownrams.com. So that is it for this show. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are listening to this, and we'll see you guys soon.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DTR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and make sure to use code DTR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Prize Picks is the best app you've never heard of. You can choose between stars from all sports, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 players to increase how much money you win. Join Prize Picks today by using our promo code DTRAMS and get a double deposit on your first deposit when signing up with Prize Picks.